I'm Jonathan Denby, I'm Head of Corporate Affairs for Greater Anglia, the train operator. Thank you very much for joining us today. What a fantastic day it is, superb weather, couldn't be better for the unveiling of this fantastic project. It really is a marvellous team effort. The funding has come from a number of places, from ourselves, Greater Anglia, from Essex County Council and from Chelmsford City Council. And I'd like to pay tribute to members of our asset management team. They do an awful lot of work developing and improving our stations, and Chelmsford, as you know, has been one of the key projects, and this now is sort of the icing on the cake of what's been a fantastic upgrade for this critical station. So in terms of hearing a little bit more about the project, in a minute I'd like to introduce the artists, Nick and Victoria, to say a bit more about the whole project, its genesis, the actual production of this fantastic mural. Then we'll hand over to Councillor Mark Durham from Essex County Council to say a few words, and then on to Vicky Ford here, our new MP here for Chelmsford. So all sort of key people are here. And just the final point I'd just like to say is this is such an iconic part of Chelmsford. You know, the station is one of the busiest stations in the country.
Yes.
You know, Chelmsford is one of the busiest stations in the entire network. The busiest station on a two-track railway anywhere. Crucial to Chelmsford and the surrounding area, but also to the wider economy, to East Anglia and to London. And it's fantastic that we're now going to have this marvellous artwork that is both a striking piece of art but also says so much about Chelmsford and its history and its part in wider national and international history. So it's an absolutely marvellous project. We're delighted to be associated with it, and at that point actually much more interesting to hear from the people who actually helped with the genesis and creation of it. So over to Victoria and Nikki.
Thank you. Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming today to see the mural and celebrate its creation, which has taken quite a few months of hard work and graft from us. So what I want to talk about is why artwork is important, and then in particular this artwork and its meaning and story behind it. So we both graduated in visual communication or illustration, so it's very different from fine art. We're not fine artistly trained. And in visual communication you learn about telling stories through artwork. So instead of it just being a pretty picture or more of a concept that people have to grasp, the idea is that we tell a story for our artwork. So that's really what I think we've tried to do with this art piece. It's not just telling something, we want people to understand the story of Marconi. So I'll go through the artwork bit by bit so you can kind of understand the meanings behind things. So we've got Marconi's face. Ta-da, Marconi! We've got behind him a pattern which is Morse code related. So the dots and dashes resemble that. Marconi really came onto worldwide fame through the Titanic disaster, because the people that survived the Titanic wouldn't have survived without his invention, which was put onto all the big steamliners of the time. So when the Titanic hit an iceberg, the Carpathia, which was the ship that saved Titanic, or the survivors of the disaster, only knew about the sinking because of Marconi's invention, and if it hadn't been on there, we don't know the fate of those people, whether they'd have been picked up or just stranded for days on end. So through this disaster, a lot of changes happened in kind of shipfaring, navy, laws, and things like that. And Marconi really, his invention got a lot of momentum. And this all happened from Chelmsford. Marconi came here as an Italian. It was like a very hot spot for technology time, and really we're trying to educate people so when they come to the station or to Chelmsford, they can see the history that Chelmsford has and the big meaning behind it. We've got the waves. It was a calm night, the night that the Titanic sunk, but we did the waves as radio waves, so that's why they're arched like that. And of course the globe represents his global impact that he had. If you look at the eye of Titanic, the white dot in the centre, where all the lines are coming out of, that's roughly where the iceberg was. So that's the meaning behind that. And the radio waves coming out of that, suggesting the Morse code signals that were frantically sent, literally till the ship sank. There were two wireless operators, one died, one survived. Harold Bride was the one who survived, and Jack Phillips died. And they were trained here in Chelmsford. They weren't from Chelmsford, but they came to Chelmsford and they trained. The other thing I want to say is that artwork, I think, is really important, not just because it educates people, but because it brings the community together in creation of such things. And we wouldn't have been able to do this if we hadn't have known about the Ideas Hub, which is a cultural centre not far from here that I'm going to invite you all to afterwards, because we've displayed all the artwork that the children did, and some you'll look at it and you'll say, oh, so that's where they got that idea from. The Morse code rain, the Titanic sinking is very linked into the children's artwork. So you're all invited to come back there to have a tea and coffee. It's very reasonably priced, and to look at the work. And we've also put up some of our designs which you wouldn't have seen. So yeah, thank you to the Ideas Hub for helping us grow this project and helping us grow as artists. I walked in there 4 years ago and started my public art journey with them, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without them. And I think Nick's going to say thank you to the other sponsors of the project who are fundamental.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, without, you know, Essex County Council, Chelmsford County Council, Greater Anglia, you know, the funding and support that you guys have given us is, you know, wouldn't have been able to have such a prominent space and get all the materials we need to make such an important piece of work. So thank you to everyone, and of course the historians. You know, you made the history lessons a bit more interesting for the kids. I think they would have dozed off pretty quick, to be honest, but you made it interesting. They stuck at it and they got some quite interesting art pieces out, so you'll be able to view that when you get to the Ideas Hub. So thank you everyone.
I'm going to hand over to Mark now.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. We are in a bit of competition with the buses going past, but I'll try not to shout, but to project. I was elected to Essex County Council only just in May this year, and then was asked to be the Deputy Cabinet Member for Culture, Communities and Customer. And one of the exciting things that that portfolio brings is opportunities like this. And I was asked a few weeks ago if I do that, you know, they said, well, we've got the Marconi Mural, would you be happy to go along for the opening? And I jumped at the chance for a very special reason. My grandfather was one of the 19 men killed at New Street in May 1941. So Marconi has always had a resonance in my family, and having been at school in Chelmsford in the 70s, more or less every single family that you came across had either a family member working at Marconi's, or if you didn't have a family member, you knew somebody that did. So this was something that I was really very keen, and I'm very proud to be able to be here. This mural was funded by a Culture in Essex small grant scheme, with additional funding from Chelmsford City Council and from Greater Anglia. The most recent round of grants supported 15 art and heritage projects in the county, which will actually engage with 40,000 people and lever nearly £200,000 into the economy. And the scheme does offer vital support for artists and all sorts of cultural organisations to strengthen partnerships and assist in securing funds from other bodies, which was exactly what happened here to realise this mural. And this mural is really a perfect example of how the scheme works, by providing the opportunities for artists and also trying to get funding from other areas to make these projects come to fruition. And this particular project, which we've heard from Victoria, started at the Ideas Hub, and the general public and the YMCA Young Carers Group sort of contributed to the design, which celebrates Chelmsford's industrial heritage, which is so important to this city. This mural features, as we can see, the Titanic, and we've heard very eloquently from Victoria about the various nuances of the design itself, some of which, you know, I think it's one of those situations where you're going to see more every time you go past it. You'll say, oh right, that's what that refers to, which is, you know, I think a secret of great art. It really is good. And you know, who knows, with potential funding in the future, maybe additional murals can come to fruition that celebrate Marconi's later work. So hopefully if there is, you know, additional funding, we can get on to the important work that Marconi did in wireless communication, radar, and in more recent years in mobile communications. Don't want to speak too much longer, but actually I would really like to give thanks to the Ideas Hub where this project started, and particularly to Edith Miller, who allowed the artists to work free of charge at Threadneedle House. Special thanks also go out to the other funders, that's Chelmsford City Council and Abellio Greater Anglia. And I'm sure everyone will agree, we've all been witnessing the redevelopment of this station, and this really does set off what a fantastic new building and facility we've got in Chelmsford City. So on behalf of Essex County Council and the other funders, I hope everybody will enjoy looking at this for many years to come. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite our special guest to say something, Vicky Ford, who is the brand new Member of Parliament at Westminster for Chelmsford.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Nick and Vicky, another Vicky. It's great to see this wonderful piece of art. It's great to have joined many Chelmsford commuters on the trains over the past few weeks, which is a thing that I continue to want to do. Jonathan, thank you very much for everything you've done to make this station so sparkling today. Jonathan and I met in Westminster with MPs up and down the line to talk about the future investment that's going to go further each side to make sure that the next generation of new trains, for example, will be coming, that all the technology that we had 100 years ago continues to want to come to Chelmsford. So just if I can say my little piece, I've been so impressed when I've been knocking on doors in those very intensive weeks to meet so many people who have been involved with the wireless technology industry over many, many generations and still are. And I made it very clear in my maiden speech when I described Chelmsford as Radio City. You know, this is where the first radios, the first wireless technology started, but it still continues today. And it still continues today. You know, the company that makes the equipment that sends the signals from our phones to the satellites in the sky and brings those signals back down to Earth again. That company is based here in Chelmsford. It's the fastest growing sector of the global economy, and the satellite sector is a key sector for our government to continue to invest in. So I want to think about the future of our science and technology and wireless in Chelmsford. I've just this morning been with one of Chelmsford's amazing primary schools. I'm starting to get around quite a few of them. This one is a Tim Peake school, sponsored science, technology, space. They've won the Essex Championship for maths, and the kids there are really driven, and they were looking not only at the future, but also they were doing a project looking back into the history of science and technology. One of the kids gave me a model that she had made of a 1980s mobile phone brick. So they're looking at, as you say, through art, through history, to learn also about the future. And I'm really, really excited that so many people in Chelmsford want to use the 100th anniversary and the various activities around the 100th anniversary, not to just remember what happened 100 years ago, but also to encourage and launch forward and continue to invest. So Britain is absolutely at the centre of global science. I was at the Royal Society last night where we were seeing their summer exhibition of science from all over the country. I want to make sure that Chelmsford continues to play a part in that. We've got amazing work happening at Anglia Ruskin as well. We'll be the first new medical school in the country will be happening there. Absolutely state-of-the-art ways to learn, a lot based on wireless technology as well, so that you can learn from across the classroom as well. So we're absolutely in the centre of the next generation and the digital revolution as well. So thank you so much for all you've done. Keep telling the people, keep engaging the next generation, because that's how we'll build a stronger future. Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you so much. Thank you. And the Ideas Hub.
And just finally, before we do some more photos, there's some other thank yous that we just thought to make before we finish the formal part of this event. Firstly, Alan Pamphilon, the historian and helper who put together a lot of the history and information that was the background to this mural, and also the detail that's on the plaque. So I'd really like to thank Alan specifically, because he played a key role. So thank you very much. And Tim. And I'd also thank from our team, we've got Simone Bailey, who's our acquisitions director, and sort of it's her sort of task in terms of developing all our stations. That's a massive task, and this is a fantastic project that's really come to fruition. And without Simone's involvement and approval and support, this kind of thing doesn't happen. And also Rachel Clark, who was from our team, who actually was the critical person in terms of making this specific project happen. So Rachel's put an awful lot of effort in to making this project really work. So thank you very much, Rachel. And again, to reinforce some of the other points that others have made, this really was a massive team effort from a number of people, from the Ideas Hub, from the artists, from the council, and it's a fantastic outcome. And thank you all again for coming.